You know, there was a time when movies didn't feel written. They didn't feel like you were watching actors. They felt like you were watching something real with real people. And today, we're going to go through 10 movies that capture that feeling better than anything else. So pop that tape in. I got you. Let's go do this. Hey everybody, it's Chase and welcome back to ABA Pop Culture, where today we are talking about something that I think all of us, particularly those of us who grew up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, you feel this. Even if you never put it into words, what we're talking about here today, and that is there are certain movies where the second you put them on, it doesn't feel like a movie. It feels like something that you stepped into, like into a moment, a place, a memory, something where the world feels lived in. And not just because they're like realistic or true stories, it's the performances, it's the way they're shot, the way people talk, the dialogue, and the way the scenes just kind of breathe. And we're going to count down 10 of them, starting at number 10 with 1985's The Breakfast Club. Now, this is one that is like kind of the perfect place to start, in my opinion, because on paper, this shouldn't feel real at all. This is a John Hughes film, and I mean, this guy did Weird Science, so doesn't feel real at all, but actually this one does. You have 5 high school stereotypes locked in a library all day for Saturday detention, having these long emotional conversations, and you could easily see this thing feeling staged or definitely overwritten. Today it would be very overwritten, but when you actually watch it, you realize something clicks in this movie, because once they get past all the surface level stuff and sort of jockeying for position in here, the labels, the attitudes, all that posturing, what they are talking about is real. Particularly Gen X is going to identify with this very strong. The pressure from their parents, the expectations, the feeling of being completely misunderstood even within your own tribe, so to speak. There's that scene where they're all sitting in a circle just opening up, and it's messy. It's uncomfortable. It's awkward. People are interrupting each other, talking over each other. They're not always saying things the right way, the politically correct way. They're not worried about offending each other necessarily. It just feels like a group of real kids trying to figure themselves out in real time. And yeah, maybe teenagers weren't always as articulate even as they are in this movie, but emotionally, that's exactly what it felt like, particularly for Gen X. You could see that. I could see that around my cafeteria, that divide, and that's why this movie feels real, and that's why The Breakfast Club still works. And then at number 9, you have one of my favorite movies of all time. That's 2000's Almost Famous. And this is where you get a movie that doesn't feel like it was written at all. It feels more like it was remembered. And that stands to reason because you have Cameron Crowe, who wrote this, and he's basically writing this story about himself, because at 16 years old, he really was not in high school anymore. He was finished and he was traveling with the Allman Brothers and writing for Rolling Stone. So some of this is actually his true experiences filtered back out into this story, where Almost Famous follows basically a stand-in for Cameron Crowe as a teenage kid, William Miller, who gets thrown into this world of rock and roll bands, touring Rolling Stone magazine, and it's a fictional band called Stillwater, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't take you out of the realism, because the whole time you get this sense that he's just trying to keep up, that he is way in over his head. But what makes this movie feel real is that sort of, non-perfect nature of it, but it flows so well. The scenes don't feel structured. They feel like remembered moments. You've got conversations happening on a tour bus late at night, music playing, people half talking, half listening, and then you've got someone like Penny Lane, who, played by Kate Hudson, she does a great job in this, who feels like a real person you might have once met and never forgot. And she's not just a character, she's layered, she's complicated, she's kind of lost in her own way, even if she's helping someone else find their way. And the movie doesn't force big traumatic or dramatic moments, even when, I'm a golden god and you're jumping off the house, it feels real. It feels earned. It feels like something a crazy ass rock star at the time might do. It just lets things happen. That's what makes it feel real. It feels like you're looking back at something that actually happened because it partly did. Not like you're watching something that's constructed. Almost Famous comes in at number 9. And then at number 8, we have 1995's Apollo 13. Now, this one is a completely different kind of realism because this is the realism that comes from something that really happened and a process, essentially. From watching people solve problems step by step in an impossible situation and understanding exactly what's at stake. And then you have Tom Hanks as Jim Lovell, an astronaut who's basically living the dream and everything's going according to plan until it's not. And then it's Houston, we have a problem. The movie doesn't just turn it into some over-the-top drama at that point, though. It becomes problem solving like they really did. You're watching engineers on the ground trying to figure out how to keep these guys alive with limited oxygen, failing systems, one problem after another, and no margin for error. And what makes it work is that the movie respects your intelligence. It shows you how things work. It lets you follow along. So, they're building a makeshift CO2 filter. You understand why that matters. It creates tension, no fake drama. It throws all these parts on the table and says we got to find a way to fit this into that using only this stuff, and it makes it where everybody can understand it and follow along. And by the time they're trying to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, you're not just watching it anymore, you're holding your breath with them, even if you already knew how it turned out. And that is a testament to how good this movie is. Apollo 13 comes in at number 8. And at number 7, we have Good Will Hunting. And it's one of my favorite movies of all time. And this is where the realism comes from something much smaller, just people talking. You've got Good Will Hunting in this movie. You're like, oh, his name is Will Hunting. Oh, I get it. You go into there. But then you don't have these big plot moments that you would have in normal movies. Now, this came out around the perfect time for me in my age because I was around 19 or so when this came out, or 20. And this whole movie is just built on conversations. Well, you've got this incredibly gifted kid, Will Hunting. He's working as a janitor, pushing everyone away from him before they can get close to him and hurt him because of things that's happened to him before. And the movie doesn't try to rush anything in this film. It lets the scenes play out, including the awkward pauses, people talking over each other, because that's how people really talk. They don't wait in turn all the time for people to finish. It's not neat and pretty like that. And then there have moments where you can tell people don't quite know what to say, and that's very real too. You take the scenes with Robin Williams, one of the most famous monologues ever. They're sitting on a bench talking about life, loss, experience, it's not your fault, that sort of thing. That scene works because it does not feel written at all. It feels like something that has just happened. And Robin Williams has come to this realization. His character's come to this realization, and he's putting all of his real experience into it and just telling this kid a story. And by the end, you're not thinking about the story structure of the movie or this scene or how much time is going on. You're just thinking about the people who are in it, and that is absolutely awesome. Good Will Hunting comes in at number 7. Now, number 6 takes a little bit of a different turn with 1991's Boyz in the Hood. And I remember the first time I saw this, and this is realism through environment, essentially. You've got Boyz in the Hood that also doesn't feel like it's presenting a story at all. It feels like it's letting you step into a living world that's happening, right? From the beginning, you're just dropped into this neighborhood, and you kind of are going along with Cuba Gooding Jr. as he is kind of dropped into this neighborhood, and everything feels natural. The way people talk, the way the scenes unfold. I keep mentioning the way people talk because I'm a writer myself, and dialogue is one of the things that goes off the rails first for most people. They want to put their words into people's mouths instead of like listening to their characters, observing their characters, and then just writing what their characters say. In the moment you start putting specific words to show how witty you are or to convey something in a character's mouth instead of letting it occur naturally, you lose that realism These movies didn't do that. They let the small moments build into bigger consequences, particularly here. Nothing feels exaggerated, even when the violence gets heightened, and that's what makes it hit harder. You got Cuba Gooding Jr., Ice Cube, Lawrence Fishburne. Lawrence Fishburne is one of the most underrated actors ever, and Ice Cube was acting his rear end off in this movie too. These performances feel grounded, like you're watching real people navigate through real situations. I remember the plastic on mom's couch. Like, that's how our grandmother used to do it. Like, so these are things you can relate to even if you had never been to Compton, California or anywhere else. It doesn't feel like there's a twist in here when things start going wrong. It feels inevitable, and that's what makes it stick with you. Boyz n the Hood comes in at number 6. At number 5, we have 1986's Platoon, and this one's a very different kind of thing. This is one of those movies where you can absolutely tell that it came from experience. Oliver Stone didn't make Platoon to feel like a war movie. He made it to feel like what it was like to actually be there, and that means it's going to be messy and chaotic. No clear sense of control sometimes. You've got soldiers who were exhausted, scared, not always making the right decisions, and there's this constant tension between Willem Dafoe's character and Tom Berenger's character, two completely different philosophies on survival in the Vietnam War. And then you've got Charlie Sheen, who's right in the middle of it, kind of seeing both sides, and that's very real. In real life, most of the time, people don't always get one way or the other. There's parts that they see of both sides of things, and that makes it even harder to navigate because you see different things. And Charlie Sheen is right there, his character, and they're trying to figure out what kind of person's he's going to become in this. And the jungle in this movie feels absolutely suffocating. The nights feel endless. The violence doesn't feel heroic at all. It feels draining. You feel wore out at the end of this movie, and that's what makes it real. Platoon comes in at number 5. And sticking with war movies is maybe the most realistic war movie ever made. Now, maybe the most realistic war thing ever made is Band of Brothers. Not a movie, a miniseries, but that might be the best thing ever made. But this is right there, and it's done by Steven Spielberg, and Saving Private Ryan is incredible because you take that realism of Platoon and you push it even further. The opening D-Day sequence, it doesn't feel like a movie scene. It feels like there was some poor documentary filmmaker there, scared to death with a camera, filming all this. It feels like chaos, the camera's shaking, people are shouting all over each other, there's no clear sense of direction, and for a few minutes, you're not watching this movie, you're surviving it. You're hoping for this to end, hurry up and end, and then you bounce back to the fact that that all really happened, and it's just absolutely brutal. But what makes the movie work is everything that comes after that. The quiet moments, the conversations between soldiers, talking about home, talking about fear, trying to hold on to something normal, to who they were so that they can get back to that. And Tom Hanks is leading the group, and he doesn't feel like a movie hero at all. As a matter of fact, he tells you he's not a hero at all. But there's this air of mystery about him, and it just kind of shows how average, everyday people can become heroic when they are pushed up against it. Even though on the inside, he feels like a guy who's just holding it together enough for everyone else to survive. And that's why this movie hits as hard as it does. Absolutely incredible film is Saving Private Ryan. It comes in at number 4. And then at number 3, we have something very different. It's 1999's The Blair Witch Project. And this is where realism is different, but it also becomes something that's kind of dangerous because the Blair Witch Project didn't just feel real. People at the time thought it was real. I was like 19 or 20 when this came out as well. And the internet was still in its infancy, really, and we didn't have all this online going viral. You couldn't just look up anything you wanted anytime, and people hadn't seen a movie like this before. So there was stories being pushed out there as a marketing campaign to make it seem like this was real. all of that. This was like a forbidden thing. This was crazy. It was ubiquitous. It was everywhere. And people thought it was real. You had 3 people in the woods, lost, frustrated, scared, talking over each other again, arguing, breaking down. There's no music scores. There's no swells. There's none of that stuff to tell you how to feel, to help you along emotionally in the movie. No sense that anyone here is in control. No sense that there's anybody directing this chaos. And that's what makes it so effective. And there's been many that try to copy it afterwards or take it in other directions, but this one had a sense of realism at the time that you can't match later after it's already been done. There's long stretches of this movie where you could argue it's boring. Nothing happens, but everything somehow still feels tense because it feels like something is just unraveling. You're just not sure what. And by the end, it doesn't feel like a movie at all. It feels like you actually saw some footage that was found of something that went wrong and these 3 people are lost and they're never coming back. And that is a whole other kind of realism. And for that reason, the Blair Witch Project comes in at number 3. Now, at number 2, you have one that is so realistic. It feels so real. It is hard for me to watch. And that is 1974's The Texas Chain Saw Massacre. This might be the closest a movie has ever been to feeling like something you were absolutely not supposed to see. Everything about this movie just feels off. The heat, the lighting, the sound design, the sort of, it doesn't feel like, it feels less like a production and more like, again, something that was just captured and you managed to find this footage somehow, even though it's not a found footage movie. The editing is rough, the performances are frantic, and it's supposed to be that way. And something about it not being polished at all is exactly part of the reason why it works. It feels dangerous. It feels sweaty. You can almost smell the smoke from the chainsaw when you watch. You can almost feel the heat and the dirt and the grime and smell the gore in this thing. And even now, it doesn't feel like something you sit back and enjoy and watch this thing. It feels like a movie that you endure. And that's part of the reason why it's not one, I recognize how great of a film it is and how important it is to horror films. And I love Tobe Hooper and all of those kinds of things. But it's not a movie that I own it, but very rarely will I ever revisit it because of just how real it feels. The Texas Chain Saw Massacre comes in at number 2. And at number 1 is 1986's Stand By Me. Stand By Me is one that probably hits the deepest for most people because it's not trying to be big in any way. It's not trying to shock you. It's just trying to tell the truth. You've got 4 kids, one summer, they're going out to find something. Now, this is based on a Stephen King story, so it has those dark undertones to it. But they're not realizing what they're actually going to find is not the thing they're looking for. They're going to find themselves along the way. The conversations where they joke around, where they bust on each other, but then things can turn serious in an instant, that feels real. 100%. And then you have the quieter moments, walking along the tracks around the campfire at night, talking about life. They act tougher than they really are. All those things feel so real. They don't feel written. They feel remembered. And that's a running theme too. And by the time it ends, you're not thinking about the story in this. You're not thinking about who directed it, though Rob Reiner did a great job. You're not thinking about who wrote the original story, though Stephen King did a great job. You're not thinking about the screenwriter. You're not thinking about any of that stuff. You're thinking about your own childhood. You're remembering those moments with your friends. You're remembering how it felt to be on an imagination adventure with your friends and things like that. And that's when you know that a movie did something absolutely special. And for that reason, Stand By Me is number 1. So there you go. There are 10 movies that prove something simple. Movies don't need to be bigger. They just need to feel real. They need to connect with you. And maybe that's why these movies stick with us so hard, because they didn't feel like entertainment for entertainment's sake. They didn't feel overly polished. They didn't feel preachy. They didn't feel drained of life or drained of color. They didn't feel overly edited and overly marketed and overproduced. They felt like moments that we know that we can connect to and that we can remember. And that's why they are special. Let me know in the comments which one of these movies to you felt the most real. What other movies to you hit home like that and feel real? We're going to be covering this type of movie sort of around this over a few videos here on the channel. So you'll be able to check them all out even before or after the fact. If you see this later, it doesn't matter. It'll always be up to date because these movies never go out of style and they never change, and that's absolutely awesome. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. And if you enjoy what we do here and you want to help a little bit more, you can join my Patreon. The link is in the description. You'll get your name and lights on every single video, behind the scenes looks at my filmmaking, special members only videos, and so much more. And everything helps the channel, and I really do appreciate it. But until next time, be kind, rewind like always. This is Chase with AV Pop Culture, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye. I know.